55 years ago, I was just a quiet young woman with no clear path ahead. Then, one rainy afternoon in a small cafe in the USA, I saw her. She didn't say much. She just watched everything and smiled. That moment changed my life forever. You want to discover how one smile started a love story that lasted a lifetime, subscribe now. It's been 55 years. And still, that day comes back to me like it was yesterday. I was 25, quiet, unnoticed. Life had a rhythm, predictable, safe, dull. I worked in a small office in New York, and every morning I walked the same streets, passed the same faces, drank the same coffee. There was comfort in the repetition, but also loneliness. One cloudy afternoon, I stepped into a little cafe near the park. The rain tapped softly against the windows. I wasn't looking for anything, not really. But then I saw her, sitting by the window, sipping tea, watching everything with calm eyes. And when she looked at me, something shifted. I don't know why. I remember every detail, the way the light fell on her face, the sound of the clock ticking above the counter, the scent of cinnamon in the air. All I know is, from that moment, my life was never the same again. Back then I didn't think much of myself. I was the kind of person who faded into the background, quiet, careful, always trying not to take up too much space. I lived in a small apartment above a bakery, woke up at the same time every morning, and walked to work with my head down. My co-workers were nice enough, but we never talked much. There was no one waiting for me after work, no one to call when something beautiful happened. I wasn't unhappy exactly. I just existed. I had dreams, of course, not big ones, just simple things. Someone to share breakfast with, a hand to hold when the world felt heavy. But I never thought those things would happen for me. I didn't believe I was the kind of person love chose. Looking back now, I see how much I hid from life, from connection, from myself. I wore loneliness like a second skin, thinking it was safer than risking disappointment. And maybe that's why seeing her that day hit me so hard, because she looked at me like I mattered, like she could see something. In me I had stopped believing in. I didn't plan to go back to that cafe. I told myself it was just another place, another day. But something pulled me there the very next afternoon. The same rain, the same quiet hum of conversation in the background, and there she was, sitting in the same spot by the window. This time when our eyes met, she smiled. Not just a passing glance or a polite nod. This was different. It felt like she had been expecting me. And then she spoke. "You looked like you needed a good cup of tea," she said. Her voice was soft but sure, like a warm breeze on a spring morning. I don't even remember what I answered. I think I mumbled something and sat down at the table closest to the door, pretending I wasn't watching her every move. But she came over, sat across from me, asked my name. That moment, it was like the world shifted under my feet. I wasn't invisible anymore. Someone saw me, really saw me. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was standing in the light. I still remember the smell of cinnamon and fresh bread lingering in the air. The cafe was softly lit, with old wooden tables and mismatched chairs that somehow made everything feel more real, more alive. Rain tapped gently against the windows like a secret being whispered to the world. She sat across from me, calm and confident, but not in a way that made me feel small. She just was. Her presence filled the space without demanding it. I remember her hands wrapped around her teacup, the way she tilted her head slightly when she listened. Not like she was waiting for her turn to talk, but like she truly wanted to hear what I had to say. We didn't talk about anything grand, just simple things, favorite books, the weather, how the coffee in this place wasn't great, but the company made up for it. But in those quiet words, something shifted inside me. For once, I wasn't afraid of being seen. And then she laughed, a soft, warm sound that made my chest tighten in a way I didn't understand at the time. In that moment, I knew this wasn't just another conversation. This was the beginning of something I had never expected, something I had never let myself believe I could have. That first conversation was like a crack in the wall I had built around myself. I didn't realize it at the time, but something inside me had already started to change. I walked home that afternoon with a strange feeling in my chest, like warmth spreading through places that had been cold for too long. I kept replaying every word she said, every smile, every pause. And for the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about how I sounded or if I had said the wrong thing. I was just there, present. The next few days were different. I noticed things I hadn't before, the way sunlight hit the sidewalk in the morning, the sound of laughter from strangers passing by, the taste of my coffee without needing sugar to make it better. It was like waking up after a long sleep, and then I went back to the cafe. Not because I needed tea, but because I wanted to see her again. Not as someone trying to disappear, but as someone who finally wanted to be seen. I started going to the cafe almost every afternoon, and so did she. What began as a chance meeting turned into something quiet but undeniable, a rhythm, a comfort, a growing curiosity about each other's lives. At first, we talked about small things, books we loved, music that made us feel something, the way certain colors looked under different kinds of light. She had a way of making ordinary moments feel special, like even the way I stirred my tea mattered. Then came the deeper conversations, the kind where silence didn't feel awkward, but meaningful. She asked me questions no one else ever had, not just what I did for work or where I grew up, but what I felt, what I wanted, who I thought I was when no one was watching. One day, she reached across the table and gently touched my hand, not for drama, not for show, just because she could. And in that simple gesture, I felt something I hadn't known I was missing. Safety, acceptance, love maybe in its earliest form. That was the moment I knew I didn't want to walk away from this, from her, from us. I had always been the kind of person who waited for things to happen, for permission, for the right moment. But something inside me shifted that afternoon when she touched my hand. I didn't want to wait anymore, so for the first time in my life, I acted. I invited her out, not to the cafe, somewhere real, someplace where we weren't just two women passing time, but two people choosing each other. I remember how my voice shook when I asked, how my heart pounded like it was trying to escape my chest. But then she smiled, the same calm, knowing smile, and said yes. That night we walked through the park under flickering streetlights, our hands brushing with every step. It wasn't dramatic or cinematic. It was just true. And as we stood there, watching the rain begin to fall again, I realized something. I wasn't afraid anymore. For the first time, I had chosen myself. And in doing that, I had opened the door to something real. We had been seeing each other for weeks. Quiet conversations, lingering glances, hands that found each other without thinking. But that night was different. It was the first time we stepped outside of our little world in the cafe and into something real. She invited me to her home, not just for tea or a quick visit, but for us. A space where we could be more than two people hiding behind polite words. I remember walking through the door, my heart racing, not from fear, but from the weight of what this meant. Her house was warm, filled with soft light and old books, the scent of vanilla in the air. She lit a candle, put on some jazz, and sat beside me on the couch. And for the first time, we didn't talk about the past or the future. We just were. Then she reached for my hand, held it, looked at me like I was the only person in the world. And when she kissed me, everything changed. Not suddenly, not with fireworks, but gently, like coming home after being lost for too long. That night, I let myself feel everything: love, fear, joy, hope. And for the first time in my life, I believed I deserved it all. After that night, everything felt different, like we had stepped through a door we could never walk back through. We were no longer just two women meeting by chance in a cafe. We were together, and with that came something I had never truly known before: belonging. We built our life slowly, carefully. Mornings with coffee and shared newspapers. Afternoons spent walking through bookstores, arguing playfully over which novel to read next. Evenings wrapped in blankets, talking about everything and nothing at all. There were challenges, of course. The world wasn't always kind. Some people didn't understand, others didn't approve. But in her arms, none of that mattered. She taught me how to hold my own heart with care, how to love without apology, how to stand tall even when the world tried to make me small. We traveled, we laughed, we cried, we held each other through losses and celebrated every little joy. With her, I learned what it meant to be loved, not for who I should be, but for exactly who I was. And in return, I gave her everything I had. My trust, my time, my heart, fully and completely. Love doesn't always arrive with grand gestures or dramatic moments. Sometimes it walks into your life on a rainy afternoon, sits by the window, and simply smiles at you. 55 years have passed since that day in the cafe. So much has changed. The world moved forward, time carried us along, and life tested us in ways I never could have imagined. But through every season, every joy, every heartache, she was there. My anchor, my light, my love. I used to think happiness was something you had to earn. That love was for people bolder, braver, more certain of themselves than I ever was. But I was wrong. Love finds you when you're ready to see it, when you're finally willing to let yourself be seen. Looking back now, I don't regret a single moment. Not the quiet years, not the hard ones, not even the days when I doubted myself, because every step brought me closer to her and to the life we built together. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening, for staying, for letting my story be a small part of yours, even for a moment. I don't know where you are in your journey, whether you're searching, healing, loving, or still trying to find your way. But I hope this story reminded you that love finds us when we least expect it, that it's never too late to open your heart. If something in these words resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. Let's keep sharing stories that matter, stories that remind us we're not alone. Leave a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I love hearing from people like you all over the world. And if you ever doubted that you deserve love exactly as you are, remember me, a quiet woman who once hid in corners, afraid to take up space. And remember how everything changed with just one smile.